Welcome to Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining me on another edition of Inside Automotive right here at the CBT Automotive Network. A win for the auto industry. On today's show, we're discussing the recent signed resolutions to reverse California's EV mandates. Joining us now to share his perspective on this is Tom Maoli, President and CEO of Celebrity Motorcar. Thank you so much, Tom, for joining us on the show. It's always a pleasure catching up with you and getting your unique perspective because of your friendship with the president. You're all dialed in there. And pretty good news, though, that he stepped up and said, hey, get this California mandate out of here. It's crazy. Well, makes no sense.
Let's start by saying he did what he said he was going to do.
That's right.
I'm on the Toyota Government Affairs Committee, Toyota Lexus, and we spent a lot of time in Washington lobbying, Congress and Senate, and I spoke in front of Congress, and it was a bizarre law, and then you had all the Democratic states adopting it, like New Jersey, and it made no sense that the infrastructure wasn't there, the consumers weren't adopting and buying these cars, so it clearly makes a lot of sense, and I think at the end of the day, I think the sad part about it is he chased Musk out of the White House because of that.
I think you're right. Oh my gosh! Now the next up at bat is the $7,500 credit, for buying an EV. What's your take on that? Some people say that should be kind of done in phases. I spoke to the president of NADA, Mike Stanton, and he said they're trying to get to a point where that might be phased out over time. Is that kind of a good approach?
Nah, listen, it's a good approach because obviously we need to get these cars off our lots. But
right.
The reality of it is I think he's going to cut the head of the snake off. I think he doesn't want it.
Just boom, rip the Band-Aid off.
It's going to rip the Band-Aid off. It's going to be gone. And, I think, listen, you're going to see a lot of manufacturers pulling out of EV production, and Mercedes is already doing it big time. And I think ultimately, in the end, Tesla is the winner because all the competition is going to go away. Yeah.
Wow, isn't that something? That's interesting.
Yeah.
So is that what you're hearing from the OEMs that you're doing business with? Is they're saying, okay, now that the tempo is going in this direction, we're really backing off EVs. And of course, we should say that EV sales have been up over the last 12 months. However, obviously not to any great extent. But right. And a lot of people are going for the plug-in hybrids, which seem to be very popular. But nevertheless, they're just not where they thought they'd be.
Well, listen, if I gave you $25,000 off of your car, you'd buy gas, whatever it's, with the incentives that are out there. That's why EV sales are up. It's not if Tesla sales are not up, and EV sales are up, and that's just because Tesla obviously went in the wrong direction with their political motivation that they took, and I think he made a bad mistake for his company. But over and above that, I think that it's the incentives they're throwing at them. Sure. I mean, at some point, if you give it away, people are going to take them.
Yeah, no question about it. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, how is business today there at Celebrity Motors? You've got obviously a nice lineup of luxury cars and brands that I should say, and then you also have a Ford store. So talk to us. What does it look like today?
Business is good. I think the last couple of months have been a little softer. I think the consumers, when I say soft, I think you're talking about a 5% pullback. We had a lot of pull ahead when the tariffs came out. People were rushing to the showrooms buying cars. Right. So we had a lot of pull ahead sales. I think people are also concerned about the economy, where things are going. Are tariffs going to stick, not stick? Interest rates, we're in an environment right now where interest rates need to come down. And I think, consumers are a little concerned a little bit. It's not that they don't have the money. I think the economy is good. I think they're just holding on to
how much, from your perspective, how much do they need to come down, the interest rates, that is, in order to really make a quick impact? I mean, if they come down a half a point or a point, is that even enough?
I think personally, in the car business, real estate business, I think you got to see interest rates under 5, 4.89, 4.75, 4.99, anything psychologically under 5.
Yeah, and that's a big jump from where they currently are, right? I mean, so
correct.
But you're saying maybe start trending immediately on that. I know that. The president wants that as well. He's pretty upset with the Fed chief on this very topic and thinks they should come down now. Of course, some out there say, well, if you do that, then it's just going to cause inflation all over again. What's your take on that?
No, listen, I think it has to come down. You have to stimulate the economy. You got to get people out spending. The consumer is the largest part of our GDP. And on the other side of it, we have if the interest rates do not come down, we're going to have a real estate crisis. We're going to have a banking crisis. There's trillions of dollars of real estate debt that was taken out at 2-3% interest rates pre-COVID, when things were low for many years after the Lehman crash, and now it's all coming due. And when you have to refinance it at 7.5%, it's a big difference.
Yeah, yeah. The president, as you know, recently took action against Iran on their nuclear facilities. What impact do you think that will have in retail sales, in auto sales, and production and such? Are we going to see gas prices going up? Will that have an impact? What's your take on that?
Well, listen, I think you're going to see a tick up in gas prices. I don't think it's going to affect the consumer that much. I think we will chug along the way we're chugging along, as long as we do not get any kind of attack in the U.S. If we get some kind of terror attack anywhere in the U.S., I think it's going to shut down the consumer. And I think that's what we have to be guarded against. Not that we want it to happen anywhere. I saw some stuff going on in the news today where they attacked one of our military bases in Yemen.
Yep.
And we see it on the news, but we don't live it. When you live it and it's in your homeland, it affects the consumer big time.
That's right. That's right. We saw what 9/11 did. Obviously, the tremendous loss there, the personal loss among all those families, but then also what it did to our economy. Shortly thereafter. And you're right. And I think it's everybody's concern that
Yes.
what does this mean here? On our turf, right?
I think number one is we got to protect our borders.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of your business, used cars, what does that look like today? Everybody said that because of tariffs, we're going to see used car pricing go up and also harder to get. Is that still the case with your stores?
Absolutely. Prices are up on used cars, and they are harder to get. People are holding on to them longer, and you go to the auction sites, and there's just not quality or quantity of used cars out there. So it is difficult in the used car market right now, but prices are up. So if you have inventory, which I did, I stocked up on it, we're doing well, but that supply is going to run thin very quickly.
Sure. Tom, at the top of CBT News, we've added recently a ticker tape for all of the auto stocks out there. And this morning, right before I came into this interview, they're all green. All of the stocks are green. Many of the portfolios out there seem to be doing pretty good. It's kind of interesting in all that's happening right now in the world and in the U.S. economy, and with tariffs. Stocks are still cranking along. It's still doing pretty good in a lot of different sectors, right?
Well, listen, people got to put their money somewhere. They have to earn. They got to get a return on investment, right? There's a 401k, a retirement, a pension fund, whatever it is. Those monies have to go somewhere to earn. And right now, like I said, real estate's, I do a lot of real estate development. I don't want to say it's on its back, but it's frozen. The real estate market's frozen at 7.75% interest rates. And it's going to take a while to unfreeze. So you have to put your money somewhere. And, you put it in the bank today and you get, they're not offering large interest rates. So you got to invest it somewhere. And listen, tech is always where it's at. If you look at what's going on, even in the car industry, it's all about the technology in those vehicles. And, I was with Sean Duffy, had dinner with him last week, and he was talking about how he believes this, the autonomous self-driving cars are going to expand very quickly, and he thinks 5 to 7 years you're going to see a lot of autonomous cars on the road. I think he's wrong. I think it's going to be a little bit longer for the consumer to adapt to that, but it's coming.
Right. And does that mean you'll be selling autonomous vehicles to consumers there in New Jersey, or is this going to be something where we'll see just cab companies or Uber companies type out there?
I think it'll start with Uber and cab companies, and eventually, once consumers get in it and they feel comfortable with it, they'll adopt it and maybe buy their own. But that'll take some time. But the good news is there'll always be dealerships. There's franchise dealerships out there, and people need service, and they want to come in and kick the tires and see these vehicles, and they need service. So service departments right now are booming. They're busting at the seams. Yeah,
that's fantastic. If you had to pick one thing out of all of the craziness out there, what's the one thing that you're paying the most attention to right now and you feel could really have a negative or a positive impact in your business?
Well, listen, I think it's protect the borders, because if we get attacked, any kind of attack, terror attack, New York City, LA, anywhere on our domestic soils. I think it's going to impact the consumer big time, and it's interest rates. We got to bring those interest rates down. We got to bring our car payments down. Between the cost of the increase of the vehicle and the interest rate increase that has happened, it's crushing the consumer, and they're holding back on buying new vehicles, and what they're doing is repairing. But I think that life cycle is coming to an end, and we got to get the interest rates down.
Yeah. Interest rates. All roads lead to that, and I agree with you. We saw that when interest rates went to 0%, it immediately, it took a spike with our economy, with auto sales. It was incredible. It was an incredible run, by the way, for how long. When you think about how long interest rates were down below even 3%, and what it did for our economy was just incredible. So hopefully the right people are listening to you. Well, it sounds like you're having dinner with them, so that's a good start. But you got the president's ear. So Tom Maoli, President and CEO of Celebrity Motorcar, thank you so much. Really appreciate the time you've given us. If you can set up a little conversation between me and the president on air, we'd appreciate it here at CBT News.
We'll go to work for you. It's always great to see you, Jim. Thank you.
You too. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks for watching Inside Automotive with Jim Fitzpatrick.